Now there's one game I've been looking forward to for a while, it has to be Stellar Blade. Even outside of the most obvious reasons that people are drawn to the series, you have to admit that it looks pretty great from all the trailers and gameplay they've shown off. The lighting, the reflections, and especially the character design is what really got my attention here. People make those comparisons to Bayonetta because it just makes sense. Half-naked woman fights disfigured creatures that you'd only find in your worst nightmares. But something I never really got from watching the gameplay was that same kind of Bayonetta feel. It just looked a lot more intense than your average combo-driven hack-and-slash game. Something more similar to a Souls-like, where you have the same level of intense action, but mixing in some strategy so you just can't button mash to victory. After the demo originally leaked a while back, I tried to steer away from the videos of it, because I wanted to go into this as fresh as possible before I eventually got my hands on the full thing. So today let's jump into the demo and see what it's looking like so far. Coming from the same company that brought us games like this, and this, comes a game that looks like this. And who would have thought that they'd make yet another game to make the internet go crazy? But the best part is that this is Shift Up's first full-length game, so I'm hyped to see what they end up doing with the full power of the PS5. We get to start the demo at the very beginning of the game as we see these massive spaceships headed towards Earth. Now the fight doesn't last long as we see some pods drop down to the surface, each one having a combat android inside. One of them contains our main character Eve as we see her struggling to get out, and soon after she's pulled out of the pod by another droid named Taki. And no, not the spicy chips. Now I would hate to make comparisons between this and Nier Automata because they're very different, but something about these female android characters having a floating robot next to them just makes me think of Nier Automata. And not only that, but the soundtrack itself sounds like it was ripped from Nier Automata, and I mean that in a good way.
You secured. Rendezvous point in sight. This way!
Now the overall tutorial is very short, running through the basic combat, parrying, and items. I heard a lot of people saying that this combat feels more like Sekiro than anything else. And I'll be real and admit that I haven't actually played Sekiro before, but based on what I know about it, I can see exactly what they're talking about. Because unlike Bayonetta, this is a more challenging type of game. I won't act like it's super tough, but it's nowhere as simple as something like Bayonetta. As soon as you get past the skin-tight outfits, that's just about where the comparisons stop between those two, and I'm not mad about it. There's about 3 major fights you take part in, and to be real, some of those felt more easy to me than the areas with weaker enemies back to back. Because the combat feels perfect when you have those one-on-one fights, since you can keep your focus on getting your parries right and dodging at the best time. And it's the kind of game that really rewards you for getting your timing perfect. Like even your skills are charged based on the amount of parries you do, so you're gonna want to make sure that you do them as much as possible. Now it can be a bit tough when there's a group of smaller and faster enemies surrounding you, but it still wasn't a huge deal. And I did appreciate having those recharge areas pretty close to one another. And that's where you can equip skills, supply yourself with more items, and of course heal up. And just like most Souls-like games, every time you heal up, these smaller enemies respawn. And when they do, you have more chances to grind out some more money and materials. Now we didn't see the full potential of items we can buy like grenades from the main story part, but there's also a boss challenge that you unlock at the end of the demo that really shows off some of that deeper potential in later fights. And I can't say enough how much I love that they added this part, because it gave me a lot of ideas for what kinds of combos we might be looking at later. They give you access to some abilities that you won't be seeing for a while in the main story, and honestly it just felt so good. Having access to more varieties of grenades, healing items, and of course being able to use things like guard breaks through your skills. But anyway, even going back to the main story of the demo, it ends off with a boss fight that again felt kinda easy. But of course I'm very sure that that's not going to be the case throughout the entire game. With the combat already looking like it's going to be extremely fun and the story looking like something that's interesting, I am very hyped to get this game. I really appreciate Shift Up for dropping this demo, even though it should have stayed out weeks ago when it was originally leaked. Because I see a ton of people online saying that this went from being some horny joke game to a day one purchase for them, and I love to see it. But let me know in the comments what you thought of the Stellar Blade demo. And also tell me if you are going to be picking this up on day one. Subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you all in the next one.